Now, if you've been watching our other videos, last one we talked about quantum physics, metaphysics, energy, and the whole universe and how everything is interrelated. Today, we're going to focus a little bit on a difference of perception and some more energy working and how the energy is processed. Today, we're going to look at things from a strictly analytical point of view. Multiple personality disorder years ago was changed to dissociative identity disorder. Okay, what does that mean? Well, if you look at it from an analytical point of view, it means that a person dissociates, which we all do, but dissociates and to the point where their identity is no longer recognizable and disorder. Well, what is a disorder? Disorder, my definition, is anything that is not congruent with the norm, which begs the question, if 51% of all the people out there, and I'm not saying they do, I'm just saying if 51% of all the people out there had multiple personalities, then the others would be non-congruent with the norm or disordered. If you were to talk to a system and all the personalities within the system and tell them dissociative identity disorder, they would scratch their head and they would say, that doesn't mean anything to us. And if you said multiple personalities, oh, now that's a term that they recognize. Interestingly enough, when you talk behind the curtain, you're going to find that a lot of terminology from the metaphysical world resonates with them, and it resonates with them right away. As an example, we talked about the energy grid. When you talk to somebody inside and you're asking them to release energy and you tell them it's not necessary to come into the body, but you can release it on the grid, they understand that. They get that. They will also tell you that they get visitors from time to time. Some of them are disembodied spirits. Some of them have evil intentions, and others are angels. Those that are within the system, we call them trespassing spirits, and we include all of them within that. So what is this phenomenon that we're talking about? Multiple personality disorder, if you will. Let me explain. If we could just make a graph, so to speak, and have a place of a point to begin. We're going to call that point right here. I'm going to call it the point of origin. What that represents is that moment when your mind and your body and your spirit recognizes that they exist. Now, this moment is usually at birth. It usually happens at birth. And what happens to every one of us is an experience. We call it experiences. With that experience comes energy that needs to be processed. Now, if it's a positive experience and it's a positive energy, that reminds us from where we came. And because of that has a good bonding feeling. That's why babies, infants, are able to bond with a parent as long as there is a positive love emotion connected to it. Then there's another thing that happens. We have a negative experience, and there's a negative energy that's attached to it, and the mind tends to separate a little bit and say, whoa, let's figure this out, because this is not safe. We've got to figure this out. And so what happens is that that negative energy kind of sits there and is processed by the body. And the body's function is to process energy. It'll do whatever it needs to process that energy. And depending upon the frequency of the energy, that will dictate what the body does. We have a word for this. I'm just going to do an abbreviation. We call it dissociation. Okay? Then there's another type of experience, and this usually happens, or it's best described to people in battle. And let's just suppose a soldier drops down into a battle zone. And at that point, that is not the time to sit down and process all the negative energy that's going on around them. That's when the mind kicks in and the mind takes control. And usually this happens in life after the mind has developed a little bit. The mind kicks in and says, you do what I tell you and we'll process that energy later. And the mind is in such control that the soldier will shoot or run or hide or attack or whatever he has to do to stay alive. And the mind is okay with this because the mind's purpose is to figure things out and to protect the mind-body system. So what happens with those folks is they come back with all of this unprocessed energy that the mind has set in reserve outside the body on the grid, waiting for the body to process it or waiting for that energy to be processed. Another fundamental rule of the universe is that energy will be processed, and it'll be processed somehow. We have a term for this. We call it post-traumatic stress disorder. That's simply negative energy that is being held in reserve, and it's going to be processed as soon as the mind figures it's safe to do so. Then comes a whole nother type of situation. And that comes to folks who are born into hostile environments. Environments where the negative emotion is so severe and so constant that you could classify it as ritualistic in nature and abuse. At this point, and it has to happen before the age of 5. Now, it can continue on after 5, but up to 5 is the golden window there when this happens. And what happens is that energy is hitting the mind-body system with such a frequency and with such force that the mind says, okay, I can't figure this out. And so what the mind does is it goes to the spirit and it tells the spirit, look, I'm doing everything that I can to keep us safe. The body is on overload. And unless you kick in and help out here, the ride's over. Body's going to die. And then the ride's over for you. Well, the spirit is here to experience life in this realm. And so what it does is it says, okay, look, here it is. I am made up of light and intelligence. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a portion of myself in the body to keep it alive during these traumatic events. And then when the traumatic event is over, that portion is going to step outside the body on the grid, and I'm going to step back in the body to live the life and continue. And if this happens again, we're just going to do it again and again and again. So what happens is the spirit leaves a portion of itself in the body. And once this happens one time, it can happen again and again and again and again. And there is no age limit as to when this will happen. There is one small limitation on this, and that is that the only reason why this will happen is because of necessity. So everybody within the system is important and necessary. So if you look at this, that situation, by the way, is multiple personalities. Now, I like to leave off the disorder because to a person who is experiencing this is the most normal thing that there is. There is no disorder at all. It's you folks out there that's got the problem. Us inside, this is just the way it is. We have multiple personalities, and oh, by the way, it's not safe to go peeking around the curtain. So they stay in the back. So if you look at it, over here with dissociation, we all do it. Sometimes all you need is a good cry, sometimes a walk in the woods, sometimes a yelling match, sometimes whatever it takes. Working it out, doing athletics, going for a walk in the woods, whatever it takes to process that energy brings you back and you're grounded. That's the way you process energy on a physical level. The post-traumatic disorders, that's simply processing energy when the mind says it's safe to do so. So that's processing energy on a mental level. And of course, multiple personalities, that is simply processing energy on a spiritual level. So each level is bumped up one according to need. The mental level, the post-traumatic stress disorders and stress syndromes and all of those, anything post-traumatic stress related is processing it on a higher level. And of course, spiritual level is the highest there is. So, looking at this, you would be surprised as to how many clients, and I draw this diagram for every one of my clients. This is day one. I have asked, and of course, we don't assume that anybody has multiple personalities, but it's uncanny how many times I say, okay, on this scale, where do you think that you fall? And it's uncanny how many times they will say, well, I know I don't have any multiple personalities, so you could say, I guess I'm right here. And the finger goes over because, of course, according to the one that is forward, they don't have altered personalities because they don't know what's behind the curtain. And yet somebody inside wants me to know it. Now, here's the beauty of all of this. Since what I learned is principle-based and not based on just one technique or another. In fact, any and all techniques work with this process because the process is principle-based. So it's all about processing energy. If you're processing energy in this realm of just regular dissociation like we all do, it's usually a physical process such as crying or yelling or screaming or going for a walk or whatever it takes to help the body process that energy. If you're dealing with things in the area of post-traumatic stress, you're going to need help. You're going to need a coach. You're going to need a good therapist. You're going to need a good facilitator. You're going to need a good emotional release counselor. Whatever you feel you're going to need, that's what you're going to need. There's just too much there to do it on your own. When you get over into the area of multiple personality, first of all, there's not a whole lot that's known about it. And this is a whole different realm, a whole different world, if you will. Literally. And the tools and techniques for here obviously aren't enough. Otherwise, people would be healed from multiple personality in a short amount of time. However, Once you understand the principles necessary, or the principles that are involved with multiple personalities, you can apply those principles and techniques all the way across the board, and makes the healing part go so much faster. If imagination can create the personalities, then using imagination can help heal the system. In order to do this, you need three things, the three I's: imagination, inspiration, and information. And if you feel lacking on any of those, trust me, there are techniques to ask the folks behind the curtains, to ask the system to help you get through it. Because we are all designed to heal. It's not necessary to live your entire life getting over what happened in your childhood. So, again, I would very much like to help as many people as possible. So like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much. We will see you on the next video.